The last door at the end of the hall. Daniel noticed the silence before he noticed anything else. It wasn't the comforting kind of silence that settles over a place at night. It was thin. Empty. As if sound entered the building and never came back out. The apartment complex sat on the edge of the city, squeezed between a closed-down grocery store and a parking structure that smelled of oil and rainwater. The building had been standing since the 1950s, according to the listing. Original floors. Original doors. Character. The landlord had called it. Daniel had needed cheap rent and no roommates. Character hadn't mattered. Unit 3B was small but clean. Narrow living room. One bedroom. A hallway that felt slightly longer than necessary. He assumed it was just poor design. The first week passed quietly. No neighbors knocking. No loud televisions. No traffic noise. Just silence. On the 8th night, Daniel woke abruptly, heart pounding, the room dark and unfamiliar. It took him a moment to understand why he was awake. Knock. A soft sound. Controlled. Then 2 more. 3 knocks total. He checked his phone. 2:17 a.m. Daniel sat up, listening. No footsteps followed. No voice. The knock hadn't been aggressive, like a mistake or a drunk neighbor. It had been precise. As if someone knew exactly how loud to knock without waking the entire building. He waited for several minutes before standing. The apartment door was still locked. The hallway outside was empty. He chalked it up to stress and went back to sleep. The second night, it happened again. 2:17 a.m. 3 knocks. This time, Daniel stayed still, breath shallow, eyes fixed on the door. The sound echoed slightly, like it had come from farther away than the door itself. When morning came, he asked the landlord about it. "Old buildings make noise," the man said without looking up from his clipboard. "Pipes. Expansion. You get used to it." Daniel didn't argue. The third night, the knocking returned. 2:17 a.m. But this time, Daniel noticed something new. After the knocks, there was a pause. Then a faint sound, barely audible. Breathing. Slow. Steady. Right outside the door. Daniel didn't sleep after that. The next day, he walked the hallway carefully, studying every detail. The corridor stretched straight, lined with identical apartment doors. At the far end, past the last unit, he noticed something that made his stomach tighten. A door. It didn't have a number. It was darker than the others, the wood older, warped slightly inward as if it had been exposed to moisture for decades. It sat flush with the wall, as if it had always belonged there. Daniel was certain it hadn't been there before. That evening, he asked the woman in Unit 3A about it. She was older, thin, her eyes sunken as if sleep avoided her. "There's a door at the end of the hall," Daniel said. "What's behind it?" Her lips pressed together. "There is no door," she said flatly. She shut the door before he could respond. That night, Daniel set his phone on the nightstand and opened the hallway camera app. He left the bedroom door open. 2:16 a.m. Nothing. 2:17. The knocks came again. But this time, they didn't come from the apartment door. They came from inside the hallway. Behind him. Daniel's body went cold. He turned slowly. The hallway was dark, but it looked wrong. Longer than before. The walls seemed to stretch, the ceiling higher, the shadows deeper. And at the far end of it, the door. The same dark door from the corridor. Standing where his bedroom wall should have been. The handle turned. The door opened just enough for him to see blackness beyond it. Not darkness. Absence. As if the space behind it wasn't meant to exist. Something inhaled. Daniel screamed. The lights snapped on. The hallway was normal again. No door. No sound. The next morning, Daniel demanded answers. The landlord finally sighed, leaning against the railing. "We sealed it years ago," he said. "Sealed what?" Daniel asked. The space, the man replied. That apartment shouldn't be there. Never should have been built. But the building remembers it. Daniel moved out that night. He thought that would be the end. He was wrong. 4 weeks after leaving, Daniel woke at 2:17 a.m. to the sound of knocking. Sometimes it came from his bedroom door. Sometimes from the closet. Once, from inside the walls. He stopped sleeping. Then one night, the knocking stopped. Instead, there was a whisper. Not words. A suggestion. A sense of being watched from just beyond sight. Daniel returned to the building. It looked abandoned now. Windows dark. Paint peeling. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the hallway stretched farther than it ever had before. At the end of it stood the door. Open. Inside was Daniel's apartment. Perfectly recreated. Except for the hallway. It was longer. And something was waiting at the end of it. Something that had learned how to knock.